we live in a society of uninitiated men. We don't know when we stop being teenagers and when we become men. The quest for grandiosity is just the other side of depression. It's rooted in unworthiness. Mm-hmm. Shame makes me think that, oh, this life is not worth living. I'm not good enough.
Welcome to the Energy Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Grutman. And if you are a high-achieving woman, a successful entrepreneur, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just a woman with kick-ass big dreams, you're in the right place. If you value your energy, your health, if you want to be a biohacker, tap into longevity, if you want to raise the impact you have in this lifetime, you're going to have a lot of fun around here. As a second-time seven-figure business creator, certified health practitioner, and soul biohacker, I'm here to reconnect you to your energy, to the soul of your business, and to your superpowers. Let's go. Welcome home. Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Upgrade Podcast. This is your host, Vanessa Grutman. Today, I am so thrilled to have an incredible guest, and please buckle up for this conversation. Nicolas Canon is in the house. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about, oh my gosh, all things masculine, feminine forces. We're going to talk about looking within. We're going to talk about self-love, breaking free from external validation. Nicolas, you are an international best-selling author. You're a speaker, a founder of Ayahuasca, Colombia. You and I had the pleasure of actually having such a powerful conversation. I still remember back in Toronto in the midst of the pandemic when I was speaking at an event. And you were and we just had this really powerful connection, and it's just been really beautiful to witness you evolve and like literally explode in the last couple years. So I'm very, very excited for our conversation today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here, Vanessa.
Yeah. So okay, when we connected, you shared a little bit your story, which is a really interesting, tumultuous story. You definitely had your dark night of the souls. So for our audience, can you tell me, like, how the heck did you find yourself now here in Toronto, like helping people, being like a spiritual leader, soon moving to Colombia and leading these ayahuasca retreats and being this like incredible guide? Like, it wasn't always like that. So do you want to talk to us about your journey and your story, you know, the dark, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it?
Mm-hmm. So I'll condense it, but in essence, I was born and raised in Colombia at the time of Pablo Escobar, when you will go to school one day and you see your classmates, you hang out. Next day, one classmate is not coming for the next month, 2 months. And then when he comes back, half of his face is burnt and he has a glass eye because he just happened to be walking by a mall that exploded in the gang wars, in the cartel wars. So it was a time of a lot of fear and panic and safety for all families. And I share this because my parents were especially my mother was very controlling, very involved. Like, you can't go to your friend's house, you can't do anything. And at that time, it's hard to see and to understand. Looking back, it's like, wow, we would have probably done the same for my kids. Mm-hmm. But that plants the seeds, in retrospect, because always we can connect the dots looking back. In the moment, it just feels like, why is my mom being so harsh? Why is this happening? But that planted a lot of seeds. One seed was this feeling of overwhelm with the feminine. Like, leave me alone.
The mothering.
Yeah. Another thing was also a lack of understanding, who am I? Because a man has to test himself against life. We need to do hard things fast, just test our limits and understand like who are we? And when that's taken away from a boy, which, I know that the people watching this is women, but so they can understand men a little bit better. we live in a society of uninitiated men. We don't know when we stop being teenagers and when we become men. So we end up with a world full of a lot of man boys, which is guys who are still walking around with their umbilical cord in hand, trying to find a woman to drain for care, for nourishment, for attention, sometimes even for resources, for finances. It happens to a lot of women who are financially successful but closed off. Anyway, so I was born and raised there, and then I moved to Toronto to learn English, and that allowed me to separate from my mother and to try to find myself through what I thought was what a man needs to do, which is, what is it? Women, money, get tattooed, like to, get all tattooed, get big, take steroids. So fast forward 10 years of that, of trying to go from being this very shy, introverted, kind of like disempowered kid, because I never got my freedom when I was in Colombia, to making up for it, overcompensating, and being to some degrees like the stereotypical asshole, or the guy who's, I don't care about anybody and I'm just,
tough,
just here.
like the tough guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because around that time I was working I had a tattoo studio, but I was working on the side as a dating coach for men. And at one point I thought, there was this specific day when I was dating my girlfriend at the time. We had an open relationship, which at the time I thought could work. And one day I sat down and I thought, I think I understand women. I figured women out. Like in my mind, imagine the arrogance. I thought, I understand all it takes to make a woman feel turned on and connected. I want to spend time with me. And the way that life works is that every time that we are very certain about something, every time that we cage it, every time that we try to reduce something to an idea, life is like, wait a second, this is not how it works. And within a week, my whole relationship crashed down, and it ended up in a way that was very painful. But it was the catalyst to everything that came afterwards. Because I went very dark into a lot of addiction, alcohol, being reckless with my partners, just being consumed by that, and realizing one day that I woke up and my studio was making way more money than I was making in 1 month, what before it took me like 1 or 2 years to make. So I had unlimited cash and unlimited pain on the other side, and those are a very bad combination.
Ugh.
And I really,
yeah.
So one day I had enough, and I knew there was a voice inside of me that kept saying like, hey, like, this is not who you are. Like there's something more. And I realized that, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to take the leap of faith. And I went back to Colombia because I figured I'm going to hang out with my grandma, my sisters, my parents, and step away from the parties and the drugs. And yeah, fast forward, a friend invited me to drink ayahuasca, turned my life around drastically. Like I did not recognize myself. Literally, I would look in the mirror and not know like who is this guy. I didn't like what I liked before. I was not who I was before, and yeah, that was the turnaround where I realized, there's so much that unfolds for us when we stop getting in our own way. And I realized I was the only one in my own way of healthy relationships. Like soon after I met my wife, after I went through this work, business-wise also, I realized, I'm the one putting the stick in the wheel. My ideas of disempowerment, my need for validation, my desire to be liked, my fear of owning my power and my voice. So so after that happened, my mother was suicidal. We didn't know. She had the date set up in her calendar, goodbye letters written, and she saw the change that happened in me, and she reached out, and I told her like, hey, like, let's try this. And I helped her, and her life turned around as well. And like that, many people. So I dedicated my life to support people turning their life around. But more than that, just coming into this place of true inner peace, which is our nature. When we've arrived, when we know who we are, we no longer need for the world to tell us. We have nothing to prove, nothing to hide either. And therefore we can share the fruits of all that our roots gather from that darkness.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. It's so beautiful. And I just love hearing, this coming from like a grounded man who recognized, what you've mentioned, that there's so many men these days walking as boys, really, that haven't had their own initiation, connection with their soul's mission, connection with themselves, and that are still hooked on that need for validation and mothering. And I just love hearing your perspective, the journey you went through. And I just think it's so refreshing and inspiring. And no wonder, your teachings have exploded the way they are. This information is just so important. We are at such a critical time. And I think we share a lot of the same vision of, the beauty that is right here for us if we allow ourselves to see it. If we, like you said, get out of our own way. You've mastered strategy. You've done the mindset work. So why does scaling your business still feel so heavy? Your energy is your business. If your body, nervous system, and wealth frequency aren't calibrated for the level you're trying to step into, then success will always feel like this uphill battle. This is why I created Fam Biohacker, a 12-month coaching experience where we merge energy, business, and biohacking so you can scale without burning out, without forcing or hustling. Inside, you'll learn to optimize your body, expand your wealth capacity, upgrade your identity, and follow energy alignment so that success can flow as you know it should. If you're ready to build a business that matches your energy and unlocks your feminine energy, then it's time to step into Fam Biohacker. You can learn more in the link in bio or DM me on Instagram the word FAM, and I will send you all the details to get you started. Together, let's make feminine success feel supernatural like it should be. Now, for you, plant medicine, so ayahuasca in particular, was the catalyst to coming back home. I know, I share this. I haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I did it also myself, and it was just such a pivotal moment of realizing how hard we make our life when in fact it's so simple. I remember that was my biggest breakthrough coming out of that. It was like, geez, we make it so hard on ourselves. Like, we were born abundant. We were born with infinite possibilities. We were born unique. We were born here, ready to shine our light on the world. So like all these layers of conditioning and people pleasing and all this this yuckiness that literally it's suffocating us. It's suffocating our light. When you realize that you actually get to choose to not buy into that, it's so liberating. But I'd be curious to know, for people that are listening that might feel that might not be hearing the call for plant medicine, because let's be honest, you need to hear the call.
Yeah.
It is not a journey for the faint of heart, let's be honest. But like, where do you usually typically guide people at first to kind of ease themselves into this conversation of returning home?
Yeah. So what I invite people to see is that we have divided the world. There's the part of me that I love, the confident, the extroverted, the friendly, and then there's the part of me that I shame, that I don't want anyone to see that, the part of me that is afraid, that is insecure, that craves for validation, that feels lonely, that wants to be loved, that perhaps wants to be useful to secure love. There's these parts of us that we all know what they are, and it's the part of us that kind of we keep caged in another place. And very often when we start to feel uncomfortable, like there's pain, and the pain can be, no matter what I do, my business is not growing. It can also be that it's growing, but I'm burning out, or I don't feel connected to it. Or the pain can be
dis-ease of the body,
yeah,
also.
illness it's the body shouting at us, a relationship breaking apart, or the absence of of a healthy relationship. Starts mirroring to us that there's something going on. And in these moments, what comes up is strong emotion, right? And I'll say that there's a lot to gain from the modern spirituality and self-development. But if there's one thing that has been destroyed in the process, is like we've been educated or miseducated to believe that there's a part of us that we need to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like the church's capital sin. You're born a sinner, and if you don't repent, you don't deserve God's grace and to go to heaven. And there's a lot of places where we're taught similar thing, or the limiting belief, if you're feeling anxious, just do some breath work, do some yoga, even do some ayahuasca, or do something. And what I invite people to do is like, no, every part of us that is afraid, that feels heavy or intense, if we're willing to listen to it, it's a younger version of us. It's a version of us that is stuck in a story that never got completed, of trauma, of pain. So the first invitation that I make to my clients is, like, this moment is your medicine. How you're feeling, especially when it feels like it shouldn't be this way. If you let go of the idea that there's something wrong with the way that you are or how things are, not to say they're perfect, but okay, if there's nothing wrong, like, what if how I'm feeling is the perfect way that I need to be feeling right now for me to step into my next level of growth? Yes. What if the confusion is not something that I have to solve through doing research on my niche and my customers and that, but instead the confusion is my mind shouting at me like, hey, like, what about your heart? You have not included another part of you. What if my procrastination is also a form of self-defense? Like, let me not do that thing that, like, I'm not fully committed. We don't want to take the leap of faith without making sure that that's our path, that's our way. And the invitation is, hey, every time that you feel something that you feel shouldn't be, before you try to meditate your way out of it, breathe your way out of it, do psychedelics, shake, dance your way out of it. Nothing wrong with these modalities, but it's like if he was a child, a 3-year-old child, 5-year-old child, that comes, and it's like little Nicolas comes into space. And as I'm about to make a business decision, he comes and he tells me like, hey, I'm afraid, like, I don't know. And if in that moment I just plow through, or I just close my eyes and I breathe, it's like,
or ignore him.
Yeah, that's what we do. This feels off. So let me, like, shut up. I'm going to go and do some yoga. And this is the way that we treat ourselves very often. Just there's very little compassion, versus coming and sitting with that and being like, hey, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Being good friends to ourselves, and realizing that the parts of us that hurt, all they've wanted all along is to have a seat at the table and share their grief, like a friend that just wants a shoulder to cry on. And once they're done, they become more allies. So the healing process is not about destroying our darkness or destroying our flaws, because the quest for grandiosity is just the other side of depression. It's rooted in unworthiness. Mm-hmm. Shame makes me think that, this life is not worth living. I'm not good enough. So then what's the point of all of it? But also, if I'm not good enough, I may spend my whole life chasing the need to justify my life. like trying to justify my life through my productivity, through my bank account, through my relationships. So I invite people to understand that the goal here is not to be this type A, unstoppable, outspoken, larger than life people, but actually to make peace with our humanity. That will come as a side effect. Like if I'm a clear vessel, life is exuberant. Like life does not play small. It's radiant, and it's the force of nature that flows through us.
Exactly. And try to contain nature. Doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. But most people try to imitate, like, oh, I want to be strong. I want to be confident. So let me take some courses on being confident, or let me read something to. It's like, no. You have to go to that part of you that still feels unworthy. Because if you remove that, the rest is effortless. The rest is just life flowing through you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much to unpack there. And first, I want to say thank you for pointing out the spiritual bypassing that is happening. And you know, this took me a while, and I had to meet the brick wall and have my entire body shut down for me to wake up to it, to be like, okay, but wait, this darkness inside. And oof, when I did my plant medicine journey, one thing that, and even my whole body is like right now, but one thing that shocked me was to realize the amount of darkness that I had within, and to actually sit in it and be like, wow, like the amount of depth that there is, and the amount of parts that, like you say, have been like trying to be like, hey, but me and this and that. And it was so, it's hard to sit in that. And of course, our ego is like, get the hell out of there. Like, why would you stay in this uncomfortable spot? Like, why would you? So, of course, the modern spirituality has shown us another quick fix, which in disguise, because it doesn't look like a quick fix. If I'm breathing, meditating, doing yoga, it doesn't look like a quick fix because it feels like I'm doing something. But really, I'm not sitting with it. I'm not sitting in it. And realizing that, in fact, your truest essence is the totality of this darkness and this light. And that without the darkness, you can't appreciate the magnitude of your light. And that it was so hard for me to appreciate that, because like you said, we attach so much shame and guilt and disappointment and frustration and anger to the dark parts of us. Like you said, we don't want people to know about it. But in fact, it's when we start making peace with it and we start sharing it and being vulnerable about it that we actually create that space for others to be like, oh my gosh, I feel seen. Oh my gosh, this happens to me. And this is why, those of you listening who are business owner, that are leaders, it is our responsibility to do this work. We cannot expect to lead and transform our clients if we can't walk ourselves through that process and hold that space for others as well, to feel seen and to feel like there's nothing wrong, there's nothing broken with you, even though that's what you've been told, and even though that's what you've been thinking. There's everything is happening the way it should be. And even as you are listening right now, I invite you to really pay attention to your body and notice how your body is feeling right now, because I feel like this is a powerful transmission, but like your body is speaking to you at this very moment right now. Like, what is it you've been avoiding? What is it you've been bypassing? What is it that's been asking for your attention? And I'd love for you to walk us through this dance of the masculine and feminine forces within us, because I know it's a body of work you're really passionate about. And there's so much liberation also around that.
Yeah. So just a small parenthesis, and it's that nothing wrong with yoga and breath work. And I have a profound daily practice, but for those of you watching this, if you've done a lot of yoga and breath work and things and you're still very anxious, I invite you to consider that perhaps you're planting the right seeds, but the soil is not ready. The soil is dry, it's eroded, it's a bunch of concrete. So how do we clear up that soil? That's let's say embracing our shadows, embracing our darkness, embracing our abandoned parts of ourselves. Because if we do that and then afterwards we breathe, I promise you, it'll take you to deep places, altered states of consciousness. You can sit and do a yoga pose. It can break you open. I've cried for hours after doing a yoga pose, whereas I spent in my 20s hours and hours and hours doing all kinds of things and thinking, all right, it was just stretching. So just want to make that distinction that these things are extremely powerful and useful, but if they're not yielding the result that you anticipated, perhaps the problem is not with the seeds, it's with the soil.
Yes. Thank you. Beautiful.
So how do we take care of the soil? You know, this is the relationship of a gardener and nature, the masculine and the feminine. Let's say in Tantra and in different traditions, life is the great mother. She's the source of everything. All that we see, this form, and our consciousness is the father, is the witness. Now, if we look at nature, she's not just lovey-dovey, a warm breeze and rainbows and a warm sunny day. She rages, you know, it's the raging fire, it's a tsunami, it's the tiger mauling baby monkeys, it's all of it. There's no good or bad in nature. It's just nature. It's just pure exuberant expression of life. So one of my teachers, there's this sage in India, he once told me, he said, every time that you're stuck in an area of your life, whatever it is, your relationship, your business, your health, if it's stuck, if it hurts, it's because the energy is not flowing. And life is pure movement, it's constant flow. So that's what hurts. Something froze. And he says, the only reason why things froze, and he says, it's the great mother, is life, is Shakti that freezes. The only reason she freezes is because you're unwilling to witness her. It's like a woman that is dancing and she's showing you her faces, and then the man just looks away. She's gonna like stand there like why the fuck do you not look at me? You know, and this in relationships, this is why most relationships fail, because whether it's a man or a woman, the moment that we bring our grief, our vulnerability, our less pretty sides of ourselves to the table, and our partner turns around, they turn away, the moment that our anger is not welcome, assuming we're expressing it, holding it in a healthy way, in a conscious way, there's something that breaks. Like, I don't feel held in this space. I don't feel safe. And it's that part is there's a part of us that is very exuberant in nature. It's our feminine, that feels fully, feels strongly. That part, if we witness her, she'll keep dancing. She'll show us a face, and then if we can bear the intensity of being in deep connection and intimacy with an uncomfortable moment, an uncomfortable emotion, she'll keep dancing, because life is pure flow. It's never going to stay blissful or complete suffering. It's going to keep flowing. That's just life. But it requires that. It's like a child that wants to show their parents a little painting, and the dad is too busy at work, and she's like, daddy, 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 and she'll cry, scream, whatever to get that attention. So the way that we nurture this relationship within us starts by that.
Witnessing.
Witnessing all of myself, which for people that are business oriented, business owners, we have, I would say this is one of the hardest vices to develop a healthy relationship with, because the world praises you if you build something big and fast and you dedicate your life to it. Your bank account, your family, your friends, everybody just cheers you. But deep inside, you may realize when I'm not doing anything, okay, when I am just being alive, there's this feeling of, I need to be doing something, like I'm falling behind or I'm wasting my time. And that means that we're hiding. We're using this vessel that was given to us to share our gifts with the world, We're using it to hide from ourselves. And in all the programs that I lead, one of the first things that we do early on is there's a whole process, but I ask for my clients to go for at least for 3 days of like fasting in silence by themselves, and to realize for most people, they have never, ever spent even a couple of hours by themselves in their whole life. People that are 40, 50 plus years old.
I know. It's crazy.
Never been alone. They're like, oh, I spend time alone. I read a book, I watch a movie. No, that's not time alone. That's you with something else, not you with you. And what happens is all those parts that were caged and ignored, and that you have run fast, that you were running and that you were outrunning because you were so busy. When you slow down, they're like, oh, there's a chance now. Let me knock the door. And it's overwhelming, but liberating at the same time. And I see this as the dance between the masculine and the feminine. This is a simple way. We set the structure. The masculine is depth and stillness. I commit to myself, like I'm willing to be with myself no matter what, to sit with whatever comes up, no matter how ugly, how much I want to run away. That's the masculine. I'm committed till death. I'm here. Yeah, yes. I'm not going away.
Yeah.
And then the feminine, which is the expressive part, the emotion, the life energies that want to move through us, which for a person that has never done this or done healing work or sat with, let's say, plant medicines, the first thing that life brings to the surface is unresolved trauma, unresolved memories, all this, like all the backlog of things. It's like, ooh, all right, let me start bringing all the stuff you've avoided feeling and dealing with, which is what becomes burnout, disease, is all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important. And there's many things you've mentioned there. And it's funny because we have a similar technique. The people that start working with me, I take them through a 7-day liver detox, like 2 days fasting and really like some journaling and some going in nature. So we have a similar approach where it's like, there's no way we can expand, like you say, if we're not watering that soil, if we're not looking within, if we're not taking care of the body, which is the vessel. And so there's no way we can think our way through this. And I think there's like, people are really getting the memo now that it's not going to be another strategy or another this that's going to get you to the next step. It's actually what's going to create even more misalignment, and dis-ease. It's the answers are all within, but all we got to do is like stop to hear them and stop fearing our own selves. And so I love that, and understanding that men and women, we both have these two energies that want a place, that want to be channeled, that wants to come out. And it has a ripple effect on everything. It has a ripple effect in your business, in your relationship. And I want to touch quickly on relationship because I know you kind of closed that chapter. You were, a dating coach, a relationship coach, and you told me before, you're like, I had to stop this because people would come and be like, hey, fix my husband. There's something wrong with him, or fix this person. Like, this is not working. And at one point you were like, hey, there's not a million ways to do this. You just have to look within, because everything that you see on the outside is a reflection of the parts you are avoiding inside. So talk to us about that more.
Yeah. So first, I love what you just said. You can't solve, there's no thinking solution to a feeling problem. There's not,
no,
that's not how it works. Like, if it's about the feelings, you gotta feel it. There's no way around that. But yeah, around relationships, our partner will always mirror to us the ways in which our inner masculine or inner feminine is out of alignment, out of harmony. So, for example, I've worked with many women, many professional women who have the challenge of finding a man. They often find themselves in relationships with men that are very casual or kind of weaker than them, or just isolated and thinking, what's going on? Are they intimidated? What's the deal? And for most of these women, for example, they usually meet a man that either treats them as an option or doesn't want to commit or doesn't want to take care and provide and really show up as a masculine force. So she ends up being the one wearing the pants and kind of being his mommy and whatnot. And the pattern underneath here is every single one of these women, in my experience, had a lot of emotions that they themselves did not give themselves. They did not give themselves permission to feel.
Yeah.
So internally, what's going on is there's your feminine wants to grieve the fact that, hey, you feel you're getting old and you've built so many things and one more thing doesn't work, and you want to be a tough woman, but you can't allow yourself to crack, to be fragile, to accept or at least witness how badly you actually want a man or a family, for example, or if you already have one, how badly you would love for him to show up in a different way. So there's emotions that these women don't allow themselves to feel. So there's a part of them that they reject or they neglect. They don't want to look at it. So they end up meeting partners that also, whenever they start showing emotion, they're like, ooh. And all that's doing, and they can say, oh, he's a narcissist or he's not ready or whatnot. We can always point the finger, but if we look within, we're going to find the exact same dynamic. It's a fractal, as within, so without. So in relationships, I cannot, first, if I'm expecting from my partner to make me feel loved, I'm just a leech. I'm out to get something. And the moment that they don't fulfill on their contractual obligations, I'm going to be upset, because if I don't know how to cook, and this is the restaurant that I'm expecting to feed me for the rest of my life, and one day they're having a bad day, they didn't open, I'm going to be upset. Why? Because I have not learned to do that for myself. So I will say that most relationships were created out of complementary needs. Not a problem with that. We are human. We have needs, and we can match that. But love doesn't become available to us until we understand that it's an inside job.
Yeah.
And until I can look at my partner with love in my heart and let them be who they want to be, not whom I need them to be for me to feel validated, safe, respected or not. Because when we play this game where, hey, you're my partner, you have to be this, you cannot hang out with guys, you cannot hang out with your girlfriend, you cannot work so much, or why are you doing this? The moment that I start putting all my projections, my fears, like kind of squeezing you with that, in the sad occasion that you agree to that, or he agrees to that, like if our partner shrinks to fit what is comfortable for us, everybody loses. So most people in relationships, they enter and you see it, like it drains their life. They're lesser than they were by themselves. And this happens. Why? Because we're in a relationship that is codependent. I'm afraid of upsetting them. I don't want to be upset at them and show it either. And underneath that is just, within there's a lot I haven't yet witnessed. There's a lot of love that I am not willing to give myself. Like for me as an entrepreneur, one of the hardest things has been to recognize that my love is not contingent on my output or the metrics that I hit. I don't have to wait until my bank hits a certain number for me to
feel worthy.
Yeah, to feel like I love myself. Also play, which is an expression of love. If you see, like, children play, why? Because they're in love with life, with themselves. They just want to explore. They're curious. They're creative. Most adults, there's no play, and play has been another thing that I've been learning to include as a part of a balanced life, not as the reward. Oh, when I finish this launch, then I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna give myself the gift of play.
Yeah.
Like no. And you like, I've seen the work that you share, and I've seen that the way that you lead is like, hey, like energy being the life force first. Because if it's like, if the source of creation that is working within us and outside of us, the thing that everything is made of, which is also what we're made of, if we're not listening to that, like giving that a room, but then we go to some website and try to find the perfect funnel and copy and whatever. It's so silly. It's so silly.
Yeah, and there's something that you said about the codependency, because it's so true. For as long as we are not appreciating our true self and loving ourselves, we're always going to be looking for this missing part of us. And we're going to be, like you said, leeching to our partners and literally being an energetic drain to these people, always on the look for almost like a part of ourselves to come and complete us. But here's the other thing. This isn't a relationship, but I call women out all the time in the same behavior with their business, being completely codependent with their business and expecting, like you just said, the revenues or the monthly income to complete them and make them feel whole. But here's another sneaky part with their kids. And guess why? When kids are leaving for college, women are completely like, they're shocked. They're like, "Who am I?" Because they've projected so much onto them, a little bit like what you felt from your mother that you were sharing at the beginning. And it's really, really important to take this radical responsibility for our own energy, our own needs, to actually be the one that's giving us the love we're looking for, to be the one that's giving us that self-time. That, like I always say to my clients, like, give yourself a timeout. Like, literally go and hide in the pantry and have a cry if you need to. Like, just give yourself timeouts. Allow this room, this space for you to be first and check in. What is my body needing? What do I need to feel? Like, what am I feeling right now? I always say this, like when I have my first appointment with my therapist, that would have been 10 years ago, she asked me at the beginning, how are you feeling right now? And I said, I feel good. She was like, no, that's not an emotion. And I was like, I feel okay. And she's like, no, that's not an emotion. I had literally had no idea like how to put words on emotions. And that was just 10 years ago. Imagine, like, we haven't been taught these things. So now, of course, it feels intimidating. But I just wanted to call that codependency pattern because it creeps up everywhere in sneaky ways. And it's really important to notice the illusion that's always there also,
Oh, 100%. And another pattern that I've seen also is that those who are single, especially, they will reenact those patterns with their clients as well.
Ooh.
There will be the client that starts crossing boundaries, the fear of speaking up, of drawing a line, the shrinking, the not good enough, the
So good. Yes.
putting up with a lot of gray zones, disrespect, lack of commitment, accountability. And it's just, because we go back to that. What's going on inside is going to find reflection outside with the business, with the clients.
That's so good. It's so good because now you're saying this. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I see it. I have examples in my head. And here's the other interesting thing, while we're speaking about the outside, the environment, as the world is becoming more and more chaotic, and I keep saying, like, buckle up, friends, it's gonna get wild out there. It has to, because nothing as it is right now works. So it's gonna have to shift. And I personally, I'm always the hopeful one, but I know that we're going to go through a tough part, but it's going to be for the better. That's truly what I feel in all the cells of my being. But the way we react to what politicians are saying and the economy, all of this, is also a reflection of what's happening inside. And it's so hard for people to understand this because I'm not activated by any of it because I'm creating my own reality every single day through my feelings and my thoughts. And I often say this, I feel like I live in a parallel timeline because I'm like, what are you, like, I'm not seeing or feeling any of this stuff. Like, why do you give it any attention? Why do you give it any energy? But I just wanted to add that in because it's really, really important when we feel really anxious or we buy into the fear or the scarcity, then it's important to look within and sit with that and be like, okay, what am I not trusting about myself? What am I scared within? Like, where do I need to build that resiliency or that freedom for myself, that sovereignty?
I love that. The outside world only matters if the inner world or our direct contact world is not exciting enough. I have yet to meet an entrepreneur who loves what they do and has any time to dedicate to outside drama. Like running a business on its own is enough drama. It takes, and I can only imagine, being a mother, being married. It's like your plate is full, and then you're growing something that doesn't belong to you, that you have no direct influence over, that is you can't control, and you want to throw it while your plate is full with stuff that you could control, you could change, you could transform, and that could get you out of, if the person doesn't like where they're at, it could set you up to live whatever you want. If you don't like what you see outside, it's like, not a good allocation of resources.
I love that visual. Like, why would you plug that energy and intentionally decide to add it in your plate? It's like, yuck, no, thank you. My plate is full enough, like you say. But I think, again, this goes back to feeling that grounding within, feeling whole again, trusting yourself. And it took me 4 years to get to this place where I'm like, oh, okay. And you were telling me, like, how the heck do you work with your husband? Like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And that's another layer of complexity. And every day we are met with different challenges. But personally, I love it because we've been evolving at the speed of light because we are both in that like grounded energy where we're like, okay, what's happening here? Let's observe, let's communicate. We're able to call ourselves out right now. It wasn't like that before. It's just because we've done all this inner work. But I'm like, this is great. I'd rather invest myself in building one of the most important foundations of our family, our legacy, than again, dividing my attention to places that I can't control.
I love that. Yeah. I think it takes impeccable communication, deep love, and for both partners to meet each other eye to eye for family, business, these close relationships to work properly. But if someone has done the work and is willing to do the work, it's transformative fire. You cannot come out the other side the same.
Yeah. I see that. I feel like I can't lose no matter what. Even if it doesn't work in the long term, there's no way, like, because we're evolving so fast, there's no way it could have been negative. And anyway, this is what life is about. Everything happens for us. So now I want to honor your time in closing because we've talked about so many things. Like, is there one piece of advice you would love to give to women out there that are on this journey coming back to themselves? Is there anything that you're like, this is the key, or one last closing comment that you'd love to add? The tricky question. If money feels inconsistent, stressful, or just harder than it should be, then your energy is what's out of alignment. You don't make money anymore. We know that this is an endless loop leading to burnout. You attract money. And if your energetic field isn't calibrated for this type of wealth, then no strategy will work the way it should. That's why I created the Money Energy Bundle, the key to unlocking this more feminine way of connecting and being a match for abundance. This is how I've been able to build my business from 0 to 1 million in cash in less than 17 months. Inside this bundle, you'll get 3 exclusive powerful masterclasses on wealth energetics, all the things you need to know and be aware of. But in order for you to also integrate this learning, I'm also including an energy clearing activation to clear any old blocks around money, as well as a wealth meditation to help you rewire your frequency and your money story. But also, all of this bundle is going to be there to help you expand your capacity to not only receive, but hold money. Because believe it or not, money wants to come into your life right now. But are you in a contracted state? Are you allowing it to come in? What I know now is that money flows to women who know how to hold it. You can grab instant access to the Money Energy Bundle for just $111 for a limited time only. You can grab the link in the show notes or DM me on Instagram the word money, and I will send you all the information to get started. I hope to see you in there.
I would say, especially for women, that whatever they imagine they could accomplish by thinking, forcing, doing, pales in comparison to what the heart can create. And I have yet to find a good enough reason for any human being to live with a closed heart. We often want to wait for a partner to come and hold space for myself so I can be feminine, or a woman so I can be the masculine. It's like, no, let's stop waiting for tomorrow for somebody else to give us a permission slip to be who we know we're meant to connect to that fire that drives us. And it's scary because that fire doesn't play with strategies. It's moment by moment, day by day. It guides you. It's not going to tell you how the game is going to end. It's just going to allow you to play the game in a deeper way. But we have to be willing, vulnerable, and courageous to stand in that chaos and dance with it. But the moment that we stop resisting that, and we embrace the dance, it all explodes. It all happens.
Yeah, soften and like you say, play. The frequency of play is so powerful for us women. And I love everything that you just said. We're so aligned in our vision and our mission as well. So thank you so much for your time, Nicolas. Now, I know people are going to want to learn more about you. Where can they find you? Where can they go deeper? Because you have incredible content online.
Mm-hmm. So on Instagram at @NicoCanon_. That's the main one that I'm building right now. I have a YouTube channel, same Nicolas Canon. That's it. Those are the main ways.
Yeah, and you host ayahuasca retreats as well in Colombia a few times a year, right?
Correct. Yeah. So if anyone feels like they want to go through death and rebirth and kind of remove the veil and see what's behind it, and have a radical reset of what they thought was true about life, themselves, love. A couple of times per year we host ayahuasca retreats in Colombia. Website is ayahuascacolombia.com. So that's it.
Wow, that's amazing that you nailed that. That's so good. So good. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Ayahuasca is like I said, when you hear the call, you can't unhear it. But it's a journey. It's a journey. But also, 10 years, the equivalent of like 10 years of therapy in a week. It's like, it's the real deal. It's a deep dive. So if you're feeling the call, feel free to message me about it. Feel free to message Nicolas about it. Happy to answer any questions around that. We'll put all your information in the show notes, of course. We didn't even talk about Kanye West and his, I wanted to bring that up because, oh my gosh, you had done such a perfect, what's her name? Is it Bianca?
I think so. I'm not.
She showed up like basically naked at the Grammys, and you had done such a beautiful. Maybe that's a post you did, right?
Yeah, yeah, a
I'll
real.
share that post. If ever you looked at that scene and you were like, okay, there's something wrong with this. Like, I can't quite put my finger on it. You did a really powerful, quick video on it. And I thought it was so well done and very enlightening and an opportunity to look within as well and be like, oh shit, do I do this to others? So it was really beautiful. I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you for your wisdom, for your light, for making this world a better place, and for sharing your journey. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you. The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.